Okay guys, next drill, as you probably all remember from class, after we do our Vinden warm-ups, we move on to Oberhau, aka Zornhau, and this is the drill for that. So we are again going to be in our assumed apartment space, nowhere to move, so our feet are shoulder width apart. We can still work on chaining our hip to shoulder to hand rotation by turning these hips a little bit. I'll back up so you can see my feet. You can either do this with a full foot turn, or I'm tending to just do it kind of with like a lean. Right? You see my knees are turning to either side and I'm rotating just a little bit on the balls of my feet to make sure I'm not putting too much tension on my knees or my ankles. Okay, so for this drill, we are delivering Oberhau out to long point. Yeah, we're threatening and we're gaining and threatening that center line, and then from here we drop it back the same side we cut it from, and we cut out on the other side, right? These are descending long edge diagonal strikes. Descending strike being an Oberhau, also called a Zornhau, the master strike, or the Verbogenhau, that is delivering the point to defend yourself and win that center line through an Oberhau, right? So that's the basis of the Zornhau. So we're starting here. We are, oh, this feels weird to do it side to side. And we reach out here to that long point position. We drop it down, we bring it back, we cut to the other side. To start, for our vanilla version, let's think about letting those hands cut down to about a solar plexus height. Let me do it on the side here. You see I'm stopping this sword, center line, threatening with that thrust. I'm putting myself in a position where I can ward. I'm doing that by, as I come down, kind of squeezing with my hands. I squeeze everything here. The hand squeeze, the shoulder squeeze, and like this, you kind of like extend, and that is what is halting the action, right? Yeah. Okay, so when we're actually doing this, just like we said earlier, we want to be actively engaging our fighting posture, which means like an engaged core, shoulders down and back. We're always in our fencing posture. Yeah, we never want any of our default actions to give us a big lean. That's always a choice we want to make in the moment, right? We don't want that to be the thing we go to out of instinct. All right. All right, that's kind of what we're looking for from the side. So these cuts are so-so. They're not exactly Tommy cuts. I am trying to think about my edge alignment, force generation, but I'm thinking more about form, speed, and delivery of that cut to the center line, right? All right, so that's what we're looking for. Variations. There's a lot of little tweaks we can throw on this, okay? We can decide what height we want to cut to, right? So the default, I think, in a lot of the modern German practitioners out there is always cutting things to like the shoulders or breast, right about this height, the place we often find each other in binds that, when we counter one another in these high winding positions. But that's not the only place we can cut to, right? So I was saying earlier, cut to solar plexus. We can cut high, we can cut to face level. We can also cut low, right? And each time we're cutting, we're still keeping this sword out, this point out, trying to have good structure in anticipation of a bind where we're trying to win center line. So that's one of the tweaks, deciding, do I want to throw this cut high? Do I want to throw this cut low? Do I want to throw this cut in the middle? Along those lines, you can throw tweaks on for where your hands are cutting, right? So this is always the default. This is mechanically advantageous. This is where you should almost always be cutting, but sometimes it behooves you to try and cheat it over to the side a little bit. Or cutting around, like say someone's in their ward and you're trying to cut to their hands, right? So that would, your hands cutting from the same side can be advantageous. So these little tweaks are not only good to develop so you know how to do them, but changing everything a little bit, as you change it, you become aware of it and aware of some of the choices you were making initially that you might not have been conscious of, right? So if you train deciding on what height to throw it on, as you throw this cut mindlessly without thinking about it, like in fencing or whatever, it makes you a lot more aware of all the little moving pieces in a way that can become unconscious. Does that make sense? So by tweaking things consciously, you're putting them in kind of a mental position where they're easier to manipulate in the moment. I hope that doesn't sound like gobbledygook, but it makes sense to me. All right, what else? We can also play with extension in a few different ways. One, we can decide how far out are we cutting? Are we cutting close? Are we cutting out? Right, these are all choices you can make. You can deliver a thrust after you cut that center line. So it can be, this one works really well with a step. I think I can do it without a step. So you can cut here and then thrust. Actually, it's really weird without a step, so I'm going to take one. So we can cut and then have just a small simple step afterwards. So, and then you can cut around the other side, do what you want. So cut, you win that center line, you give it a thrust, and then you can bring it back in to cut around, or you can cut around from your thrusting position, whatever you want. Okay, what else? Oh shoot, there was something else. Right. We can also think about extension as we bring that cut back around. So the default that I was doing earlier is cut out to the center line, bring the hands back here, cutting through a position called Hangenort. It's in the later period. It's not in the early Lichtenauer. They reference it briefly, but it's not really talked about a lot. But you can, cut out to the center line, bring your sword back through here, extend it out again, and from the side. Right? Where our hands are coming in. The other thing you can do is you can practice keeping your hands out, cutting around from a cron or a crown position. So we cut out here, and instead of bringing our hands back to cut around, we keep our hands out in front of us. From a workout standpoint, this is nice because you can isolate muscles in your hand and grip. So this is a really good way to work your forearms. This is also nice tactically. It's nice to be able to make this choice when you cut out and you meet someone in the bind. By keeping your hands out here, you're keeping your sword better in a position where it can continue to control that center line, it can continue to ward. And that way, every time you decide to cut around, you're not bringing your sword all the way back, right? Again, in training, you want to train so that you move like perfectly, right? So that you move just exactly how you want to. But that doesn't mean the vanilla way to do it is the only way. And actively tweaking these little ways to do it will make you aware of the small moving pieces of all these techniques and allow you to move more confidently and fluently in the actual fight. And I think that's it for that one. Again, standing still is great. Make sure you're still getting that hip turn so you can fight from the turning hips, which turns the core, turns the shoulders, and can power things. But you can also do this with steps. And if you have a lot of space, you can do it like we do in the gym and just step, step, step all the way across and all the way back. But in a restricted space, you can always step forward, step back, step forward, step back, or 2 forward, 2 back. All right, guys, that's it. Stay safe, stay sane, bye.